today. The improved package has arrived. We're having it fitted in time for FP1. Have a look at the factory report.
Cheers for the factory report, Chris, and we finally have the major upgrade to our engine. It's taken 4 weeks, 4 races to get fitted to the car, but we finally have it. And once again, I feel as if this is happening every time recently. We have another new patch. This is now the 1.10 patch for F1 2017. Welcome back, guys. I apologise for the series being on a couple of weeks hiatus. I actually got pretty ill for a few days, and I eventually, my voice was bad, so I was sort of, delaying doing the video because my voice wasn't great, barely speak, and then it disappeared completely. So, that was an absolute joy, but it's finally back. I still can't hit, really high or really low, but that's obviously not a concern for videos. You can see here we're just building back up those resource points, obviously, that we are going to be working on. We're saving towards doing a big winter upgrade, and that will be, obviously, for the end of the season. I'm looking to do, hopefully, 3 upgrades and get the power fully done. Since the last one, there's been another patch for, chassis and downforce, so our car is not quite as good on the chassis, but the downforce has been improved slightly. If I'm not 100%, honestly not 100% confident with that, because I recorded this so long ago. I've actually recorded the whole rest of the season by the time I'm doing this commentary. That's how far behind I've fallen, but I'm hoping to be a bit more consistent when it comes to Season 2. But here we go. Here is qualifying. We are charging through the first sector. This is the second lap. The first one was a nice little banker time. Hopefully we're going to put something a little bit better on the board as we actually come to the end of qualifying. We've only got sort of 30 seconds left on the clock as we get a decent run through the first sector. And I mean, our time, by the time it was the end of the straight and going through, we were nearly 0.3 of a second up as we come through this sector of the lap. It was the technical bits. The McLaren didn't feel really good in the technical section, which unfortunately is where we do make up the most of our time due to, of course, our straight line deficits. But at the moment we are behind Fernando Alonso. We don't quite get the final corner as great as I wanted to, but off the acceleration, 3.5 tenths, we go across the line. Where does that put us? P14. So of course if we were in full qualifying, we would have made it through to Q2, and we beat Fernando on merit. So I'm pretty happy with that one. Obviously we actually qualify on the Ultra Soft, so we will now see how things go as we go through to the American Grand Prix.
With me today is Anthony Davidson, a man who knows this circuit quite well. Why do you think, though, Ants, that this Grand Prix has now found such huge success since returning to the calendar in 2012?
Well, full credit to the race promoters. They have a Grand Prix in a part of the country famed for its love of motorsport, and they do a fantastic job of advertising it to the right crowd, and then satisfying them when they're here with excellent facilities. It also tends to help when the circuit itself is good, and that's definitely true here. The layout is interesting and it produces some exciting action. Hosting a thrilling title decider like we had in 2015 wouldn't hurt either, so the pressure's on then to maintain that kind of quality here today.
Valtteri Bottas on pole position. Unrealistic game. Please change Codemasters. On a serious note, I was sort of just flicking with my strategy, just sort of reviewing everything. It was, I don't know why. I think at this point I was putting out that it was bugged out. It was basically trying to offer me the same strategy as the low tyre maintenance one, but it was like 7 seconds slower. I'm not 100% sure why that was the case. Sebastian Vettel right down the field as well. I'm going to say he's had some kind of engine penalty, which is a little unfortunate for the Ferrari man, as he is still in that championship fight. As we now come around and line up on the grid, we're going to be starting on the soft compound tyre. I'm not too sure what I was saying earlier about starting on the ultra softs, I don't know. But anyway, we're starting on the softs and we're going to the super softs, of course, following our traditional one-stop strategy that I like to fulfill. We'll see. It has worked out for us over the course of the season, but like I said, the car hasn't been fantastic round here from what I felt in practice and, of course, through qualifying, as we now have 5 red lights for the USA Grand Prix. Dump the clutch and we're underway. Carlos Sainz getting a pretty good launch. We're going to cover the inside line as it is quite a wide run up into the first corner, but we don't want anyone diving down our insides. We try to make moves under braking. Just reviewing the situation and trying to follow Vettel through if we can on the inside as he battles off Sainz and Massa. We've retained 14th place, which is a good starting point, as we now look to come side by side with Sainz through the first sector. We go down the inside of the first part. We managed to maintain the position. So that is us up into 13th. And we're slotting behind the Williams of Felipe Massa, who, of course, is going to have huge speed going down the back straight with his Mercedes power. So hopefully we're going to have to try and clear him sooner rather than later, because otherwise he is going to be a long way up the road from us as we now come in through to the hairpin just before that straight. The AI looked very slow to begin with, so we're going to squeeze Massa out on the exit just there, and we are going to pull ahead of him as Sebastian Vettel moves up into 11th. So we're going to try and follow Vettel through the field if we can, but we're coming down the straight now. Massa is harrying us. He's down our inside, so it's going to be a battle of the last of the late breakers, and I get the feeling this is going to be the popular overtaking spot of the race, as Sparks, for whatever reason, just flew out of the corner almost. But we move on to lap 3. We're still in 12th place. Vettel has yet to get past Nico Hülkenberg, although I get the feeling he's going to be doing so at this lap, because he's basically pushing the Renault down the straight, of course, with DRS. So Vettel's now down the inside. Sparks flying out the back of that Ferrari, so he must be running it very low. We're going to try and make a move on the Renault if we can. Like I said, the plan is to try and follow Vettel through. We made a bit of tyre contact. He's still down our inside. We're going to try and brake later through the stadium section, and we are successfully past the Renault of Nico Hülkenberg. So that allowed us to get some fresh air ahead of us. Sebastian Vettel then drove off into the distance. We've got a yellow flag as we come around the final sector. One of the cars moving very slowly. It was that, I didn't quite catch the name of that. I think that said Hülkenberg, although I'm not 100% sure, because it looked like they were making a pit stop. So I'm going to assume that was either puncture or front wing damage as we now move on to lap 6. We're 10th place. We're in the points, and Massa's now going to come under attack. He didn't really bother us too much in the first 5 laps, but I think his Williams team said that he would need to kind of get the pressure on, as he is, of course, on the softer tyre, and we're, of course, going to have a tyre advantage at the end of the Grand Prix, which, of course, they're going to need to be wary about. And I'm fairly confident if Massa could get past us, he would pull out a bit of a gap, just because he is faster on the straights. As we battle Massa going through into the stadium, we see Danny Kvyat completely lock up, and then just have a really weird incident, and then he was slow getting away, so we've now closed the gap right back up to him as we come through the stadium section here. That's now for 8th place, as we're now up into 9th position, and we're going to follow Danny Kvyat here. I don't know if he's had some kind of brake issue, because he was, like we say, just a very weird sort of lock-up, and he's gone very wide into the penultimate corner, very slow. We're going to go down the inside of him. Looked like he wanted to pull into the pits, and he's locking up again. So Danny Kvyat, I'm going to say he's got to have some kind of brake issue there. Just all over the place as Massa now tries to battle him. We saw Vettel also come in for a set of soft tyres, so I'm going to guess he's going to try and run to the end of the race, and Danny Kvyat does then retire on the next lap, and that triggers the virtual safety car, so that's something that factored in to our race. We eventually jump up to 4th by the time cars have made their pit stops. Daniel Ricciardo looks to be running on a 2-stop, because he was, of course, ahead of us on the grid, and he's now on a second set of ultra soft tyres, so no point in battling the Red Bull, or is there, going into turn 1? I like to favour my odds, the last of the late breakers, against the guy who loves a dive bomb, but of course Daniel Ricciardo getting me on the switchback. Just highlighting the fact that the AI is actually quite intelligent with its overtaking. I think, Codemasters have done an excellent job this year. After all the several patches, you would assume they'd be at that point, but I thought it was just a nice battle, really. Sorry. And Felipe Massa is attacking us once again. We're under attack from Massa on lap 12 as we once again go down to the corner at the end of the straight. We just send it down the inside of the Williams driver, and Massa understandably getting frustrated behind us at this point. I think Williams might have called him in maybe a couple of laps early. I'm not really sure if that was a scheduled stop or not, but this now means we basically have to burn off all of our excess fuel. I'm running him rich now more often than not, to basically try and cover off Massa if we can, because he's going to be switching to a fresher tyre. And we're now battling the likes of Max Verstappen and Sebastian Vettel, who this is just going to cost us time. But they couldn't really get past us anywhere else on the lap. They only pestered me down the straight, and obviously I can't just feather the throttle and let them through. I'm not going to brake early to let them through, because I'll lose too much time. But in the end, Verstappen does tap us. That allows Vettel to get through on his soft tyre, and he just barges me there. So I'm battling the Ferrari. We're both on the same compound of tyre, and now Vettel taps us on the inside. So I talk about losing time, and I think we've already lost an absolute bucket load of it at this point. So I'm fairly confident Massa is going to be ahead of me as we now come on to the start of the next lap. Sebastian Vettel down the inside will make a very late switchback move against the Ferrari, squeeze it onto the apex and stay ahead of the German in the prancing horse. But yeah, I mentioned about losing time battling these guys, and yet here I am. I think I'm just trying to show my worth, really, because I think I'd realised, due to the shenanigans on lap 14, I'm going to be behind Massa. So I think I was just having fun at this point. Like I said, it's been a while since I recorded this race here, but you can see just trying to fling it through, carry as much corner speed as I could as we now come in at the end of lap 15. Going to have to try and stretch this super soft stint. The car was really not enjoying these tyres at the end of the stint. So Verstappen goes past in 8th. No, sorry, Verstappen is behind us by the looks of things. Oh yes, he's coming on the same lap. So Verstappen goes to the super stops. He's going to the end of the Grand Prix. We're going to come out ahead of him, actually, which is a nice surprise. But there goes Felipe Massa. That is the gap that we have. In fact, Pascal Wehrlein has gone past us and is now in a points-paying position. So good job for Sauber. You know, props to the Sauber team and props to Pascal Wehrlein showing his driving ability. And crucially, it looks as if Max Verstappen has come out behind Nico Hülkenberg. So not too sure how that's worked out. Of course, the Renault driver is going to be pitting very soon due to being on ultra soft tyres. But now it's, can we use the fresher super soft to chase down Felipe Massa, as we immediately do a personal best lap time by 2 seconds on that lap of a 39.8, and the gap was closing down to Massa. And then of course Verstappen had got past Hülkenberg sooner rather than later due to the fact of his car being that much more superior, and I'm pretty sure Hülkenberg also made a pit stop. But then we have a yellow flag in the first sector, so this is going to bump us up from 10th position, as we're going to see Sergio Perez is out of the race on the left-hand side just there. So we've got straight past him, and like I said, we're just trying to close down Felipe Massa if we can. So we've immediately been elevated to 10th, so it's now we're basically chasing down 8th place, as we're now going to come up to another yellow flag as we come towards the hairpin here. It looks as if a car is off on the left-hand side, and Romain Grosjean is out the race. That looks as if he's pulled off, maybe due to engine failure. Didn't really get a radio message, can't recall what that would have been. So this has gone from now the chase for 9th place to the chase for 7th place. So it's immediately become much more crucial for our championship points. But the tyres started dropping off, and the gap to Massa really didn't actually start dropping down. I took a lot out of the tyres at the start of the stint, really trying to close them down using the fresh rubber, and it became more about trying to defend from Max Verstappen at the end. And I must admit, you will have seen the clouds at the top there. They are greying over. We are expecting rain at the very end of this Grand Prix, and I was almost sort of holding out, hoping that it would just get to that position where maybe intermediates were needed, but it hasn't come yet, and that's kind of what I was hoping for, to maybe see if we could dive in early and everyone else falls off the road at the end of the race. But you can now see we're in the 42s defending against Verstappen. The gap to Massa back up to 5 seconds as we're going to try and force Verstappen to go the long way round at turn 1. It is possible, but we squeeze and make sure that he can't get the better traction. If he squirted the throttle, he would have only hit the rear of a McLaren Honda. As we now on the back straight, penultimate lap of the Grand Prix, bump it up into rich mix. Verstappen is there on the outside. He's going to breeze past us with the better engine and with DRS, but we're of course going to slip into the slipstream, as it were, and we're going to be last of the late breakers if we can, diving very late. Can we get it slowed down? Verstappen's got the undercut. He's made contact with us as we now dive back up the inside of the following corner, and this battle with the Red Bull driver. This is showing that we would deserve a seat in a top team if we're going to go there. Of course, the plan is to bring McLaren back to the front, and here we go now into the final lap of the American Grand Prix. You see the car, the tyres really not enjoying it, sliding through the final corner. And now, I think you just saw it, the droplets on the car are now starting to appear. It's the final lap. We're on worn tyres and it's raining. So this is going to be a lap. Max Verstappen, the best wet weather driver on the grid at the moment. Lewis Hamilton wins the American Grand Prix. Typical that the guy who pretends to be American would win the American Grand Prix. But only 2 guys have won the race, either Vettel or Hamilton, and the rain is absolutely belting it down as we come into the final sector. We're having to brake so early into these corners because the rain, it's literally just been almost a torrential downpour. It's at the point where we would probably need intermediates already, and you can see it there, DRS disabled as we try and get the car in, but it's just absolutely no grip in these tyres whatsoever, and I'm just defending for all of my worth because it's at the point where we've just got absolutely no grip and we're just having to tiptoe. If this race was going on for a couple more laps, I would be diving in for intermediates at this point, which is what I wanted to happen a few laps ago, but unfortunately it happened on the very last lap of the race. So we're just going to kind of creep through. Verstappen can't really attack us because he'd probably take himself out the race if he went too aggressive. We're going to come around the final corner just about to come across the line, but it's 8th place and it's 4 World Championship points.
Nice work, you did well today. I think the boss will be happy with that one.
Well, I'm thoroughly exhausted after the excitement of that race, but I'm sure it's nothing compared to our drivers here. They've worked hard to make it up there, and it's great to see them make their way out onto the podium.
Well, there you have it then. Lewis Hamilton wins from Valtteri Bottas, Kimi Räikkönen, Daniel Ricciardo, Sebastian Vettel with a good comeback drive. We ended up nearly 50 seconds behind the Ferrari man. So the plan was to try and follow him through, but didn't quite work out. Fernando coming through in 10th and getting a point, which is always nice to see. And we are now 9th in the Drivers' Championship, and we are aiming for best of the rest. We obviously lost out on points to Felipe Massa, but he's only 8 points ahead of us with Sergio Perez in between us there. So the plan is, and we're aiming for 7th place in that Drivers' Championship as we move on over to the Constructors' side of things now. We're only 9 points behind Williams, so we could get 5th place, which is, probably not what a lot of people expected. Myself included at the start of the season, so that is the plan. If we can get 7th in the drivers and McLaren up to 5th in the constructors, that would be absolute best case scenario as we now get those all important resource points that we're going to be stocking up to use in the off season. We're still losing out on the rivalry, unfortunately, to Romain Grosjean, but we beat him in today's race. You can see sort of the lower teams absolutely love us, and even like teams like Williams and Mercedes and Ferrari getting more and more impressed with ourselves. But, like I said, we're going to be staying with McLaren definitely for the next season and trying to get them up to the World Championship. But that has been the USA Grand Prix. Thank you very much for watching. Again, apologies for the hiatus of the series. I needed to let my voice come back. Obviously working in the type of job that I do. I'm speaking a lot of the day, so that probably didn't help things. But, alas, we move on, and I digress. It's the Mexican Grand Prix up next. Big old power circuit. Probably going to be a weakness for us there, but we will see. This major engine upgrade didn't do so well for us this weekend, of course, but I feel as if the car was let down in its technical section. So we'll see how it goes in Mexico. Remember to like the video and leave feedback down below. Subscribe to be notified about content coming to the channel. I will see you all next time.